Extreme Off-Road, brought to you by ABSA. We present the 2005 Toyota Dealer Rally. It's round 7 of the ABSA SA National Championship Series, and with most of the classes still up for grabs, the next venue was the fast-growing town of Lydenburg in Mpumalanga. Nestled just below the Low-Veld Escarpment, just more than 300 kilometers north of Johannesburg, it seemed the whole town had turned out to greet South Africa's off-road stars. The final preparations before the first day always have a nervous air to them, but the air was loaded with even more anticipation this time. You see, the boys and girls had to face twice as much distance in this one. Yep, around 1,000 kilometers. For the drivers, their teams, and possibly even the vehicles knew they would have their work cut out for them. A two-horse race at the top, Hannes Grobler and navigator Francois Jordan have a slender 16-point gap over Nissan Motorsport teammate Alfie Cox and Ralph Pitchford in their proudly South African 3.5-litre V6s. 52 entries, 7 different classes, and on top of that, all 1,000 kilometers to ride over 3 days. That's the story of the Toyota Dealer 1000 here in Lydenburg and Mpumalanga. Add to that it's the penultimate leg of the ABSA Off-Road Challenge Series, then you know that this one is going to test man and machine. Cox is approaching this one cautiously. After all, it's a long way to go, and your car has to get to the finish line.
Well, I think the speed and the pressure of the driving, I mean, obviously we have to settle down into thinking about the last day.
You've got to save the car to a degree.
No, the car 100%. I mean, you've got to just, you know, not rev it so hard, change a bit earlier, and not be so aggressive, you know, look after everything, because Saturday, I believe, is the racing day. The next 2 days are just to get you in a good position, and obviously don't let obviously the opposition, wouldn't say opposition, but my teammate Hannes, I mean, he's the guy that I'm fighting for the championship for, so not let him get away, stay within striking distance. I'm sure that's going to be the strategy of most guys who want to win this race.
And I guess everyone would want to know, are there team orders out there?
At the moment, there's no team orders. Really, Glenn has been unbelievable about it.
You know, the manufacturers is also at stake, so I think it's going to be a great race. Obviously, a great rider. They're going to do the Dakar, and I'm looking forward to try and give them a hiding.
Are there team orders?
Not at the moment.
And would you like to see it stay like that?
Yeah, well, at the moment, yeah, I think we must just go like it and see how many points we can get for Nissan as well and for ourselves.
In Class D, it's a 6-point race between Manfred Schroeder and leader Mark Grenier, who's been consistent this year in the series. He boasts a track background, and thus he tries to combine that speed with a cautious approach.
I've been fortunate enough that coming from track racing, I've learned to drive a car very smooth, learned to feel the car a lot, and know what I think, well, in my eyes, to feel what I'm doing in terms of damaging the vehicle, and try and see if I can find that balance. And so far so good, I've managed to sort that out, but we'll see what comes for the future.
In Class E, Mr. Consistency Zane Pierce and his navigator Henny Vosloo have reached the finish line in each of the first 6 races of 05.
We've had a really good season. The car's been ultra reliable. We've finished every race. We finished every race in the points, and we're going to try and keep that record going this weekend.
That's quite clearly the message coming through from most of the guys, that finish here is going to leave you in the points, and most important.
Very much. I think if you do finish here, you will be in the points. It's a 1,000-kilometer race, and I heard the course is pretty rough, so we're going to keep it conservative and score as many points as we can.
The special vehicles category and Terence Marsh and Michael Whitehouse have piloted their National Mobile Corvette to a 16-point lead over the Harper brothers. Marsh had an interesting take on race strategy.
With our position in the championship, it really is our championship to lose as such. So with in three days of endurance ahead of us, mathematically we can win it this weekend, but obviously the critical thing is to finish. So we really haven't come here to race. It's quite a difficult one, bearing in mind all racers want to come and race. But we really come into just really trying to finish this race. You know, history has shown that 30% of all starters are finishing. I think it's critical for our championship hopes that we finich there.
Nick Harper and brother Ryan clocked up a maiden victory in the Lesotho Sun race, which meant a lot to the duo.
Look, the win at Lesotho, which was called the Lesotho Sun Off-Road, but it used to be called the Roof of Africa. We all know it as the Roof of Africa. It was a fantastic win. It's what everybody tries to win. It's the main event of the year, and we did that. My son was in the car with me, and his biking experience and reading the rock terrain just paid off, and we pulled off a win there. It was fantastic.
And then obviously you scared some of the bigger name teams with a bigger budget too.
Now look, the guys are all looking at us and seeing what have we got, what is our secret formula, you know, and I think it's just experience. You know, we've been doing it for a long time, and that's paying off. We've got some good equipment, and we've got good pit crew.
In Class B, the diminutive Evan Hutchinson and co-driver Vincent Horn leads by 14 points in their motorized racing Nissan. How do you prepare differently for 1,000 Ks as compared to a normal half of that?
There's not too much difference. There's only so much you can do. You know, normally we prepare to the maximum. What we will do is halfway through the event, Friday evening, we'll do another race prep to take us through that last couple of 100 kilometers. But yeah, we try and put as much effort into every race prep. It's been a longer event, we just need to redo that halfway.
The Tyre Rack racing team of Naim Mosaji and Moti Nazim surprised everyone by winning Class S in the Ford Motorite Limpopo 400, almost from nowhere as it seems.
When we finished the last one, they asked, where did you come from, you know, and that's the feeling. I mean, it's nice.
When you do that kind of thing, when you show up the bigger teams, obviously that is inspirational in itself, isn't it?
Definitely, definitely. I mean, as a privateer, you know, it costs a lot from your pocket and you work hard at it, so it's a lot of inspiration, you know, it pays off for your hard work. So I hope we can carry on with that.
The race proper started with a short but demanding 9-kilometer prologue from the Lydenburg Rugby Club field over a big climb and 3 water crossings. Krobler proved that he was in a fighting mood. 1K from the start and he wasn't sparing the horses. The Nissan Motorsport man had his 4th national championship in his sight, and his navigator Francois Jordan was hoping to add to his 1 win from 2001 when he partnered another Nissan flyer, Janil de Villiers. Krobler has the championship trophies from 1986, 2003 and 2004 on his mantelpiece, and him being first off on the prologue, he streaked around the testing circuit in what proved to be the fastest time of the day, 1 tick under the 8-minute mark. And just listen to the Nissan go. Teammate and Dakar rally legend Alfie Cox, partnered by Ralph Pitchford, also in a proudly South African Nissan hardbody, were just about 2 seconds off Krobler's time checks through each of the checkpoints. But that never put off the KwaZulu-Natal man, who pushed as hard as he possibly could. The third of the Nissans, this time the 2002 champion Duncan Voss and navigator Henny Terstege in their all-new SP Class 4-litre hard-body pickup. The SP Class comes into being soon, and the Nissan Motorsport boys have been very happy with the debut Voss gave the new car. In fact, he buzzed around in 8:08, third fastest. Mark Corbett in the back 2.4 Audi engine space frame impressed through the first river crossing after a K&a-half. He and co-driver Jean Moore gave it stick and set a benchmark for the rest of the special category cars. They stopped the clocks at 8 minutes and 24 seconds. The men known as the Diamond Diggers, Gerard du Plessis and his co-driver Ferdi Segers, were third in the championship after clinching 2 wins in the special category and were also putting pedal to the metal. Almost lost it there, but kept it together. Impressing spectators, young and old alike. Gary Berthold and Siegfried Rousseau were next, and they took no prisoners as they launched the Nissan 3.5 back through its paces on this tight circuit, which required the utmost patience, skills and flat-out driving in a marriage of controlled aggression. They would eventually grab 7th place amongst the 52 competitors in the field. The super team car of John Weir Smith and Louis van Sale were flying along, and the Jimco was looking like it was set up perfectly to enjoy the faster stretches, but they hang tough on the rocky and climbing sections of the prologue. They took the 6th place ahead of some of the faster and more fancy teams. Father and son combination of Richard and Gareth Walk in their Genoa led the space-train cars and shocked all but 51 cars as they flew along, finishing just 2 seconds behind Krobler in 8 minutes and 1 second, thus upsetting the works cars in general and the production class cars in particular. The crew are known for their wild man driving. Bevan Bartelt and his hair-on-teeth navigator Nick Salamolela almost lost it here, but were able to nurse the back 5.7 around fast enough to take 9th place. Shamir Variawa and his nav VZ Van Sale, also in a Jimco, were 8th overall in class and were intent on trying to move up. A solid showing in the prologue helped their cause immensely. Mark Grenier in his Toyota Castrol 2.7 was trying to go as fast as he could, but at the same time making sure that his vehicle could survive another 991 kilometers of racing left.
300 possible water splash. 200 possible water splash. 100 possible water splash, yeah.
The distinctive blue, red and white Nashua Mobile colours of Terence Marsh and Michael Whitehouse were staying true to their word. Marsh was going well, but not going flat out, trying to save his back Corvette for the mileage still to be clocked up. Ford Racing's Manfred Schroeder and co-driver Alec Harris had that 4-litre engine under the hood purring along like a cat, but they certainly nailed down one of the fastest times for the D-Class, stopping the watchers on 8:44. In Class E, Hugo and Jaap de Bruin clocked the fastest time for the category when they were timed in at 8 minutes and 46 seconds. The surprise package of the prologue, though, was undoubtedly the flying German Karl-Heinz Solvart in a single-seater who single-handedly went round the 9Ks in 8:10, good enough to take 4th place. Krobler with just 2 seconds to spare over the walk combination. Voss and de Stedt had only 2 seconds over Solwald, while the Cox Pitchford Nissen had to settle for 5th. Only 25 seconds covered the top 10. Krobler was happy with a hard body.
It was a tight Mickey Mouse stage, but I think it was good for the spectators, so I hope they've enjoyed it.
Okay, now this stage, how long is it going to be?
This is just going to be about 170 kilos. And it looks pretty rough out here, and I see there's some mist coming over the mountains. So we'll see. Maybe it's raining in Selby.
And they were prophetic words. Krobler was due to have more than just mist on his mind, though. Meanwhile, his teammate Cox had been watching the weather predictions.
Yeah, we heard it's raining in the Selby area, and today apparently there's 170 kilometers of just in the forest. So talking to the old rally drivers that have been in this area like Hannes, they say that the pine needles are very slippery. So we have to listen to them and sure, not to do anything stupid. Apparently it's very narrow ways, and you know, if you slip off the road, yeah, you could end up either breaking the car or being out of the race. So I think a bit of caution today, and tomorrow is 500 Ks. That's a long way, and then 400 on Saturday. So we've still got a long way to go.
Indeed there was, and if anyone knows how to nurse a vehicle, it's Cox. Mark Corbett was looking forward to the wet weather.
Yeah, we always love rain. Rain makes it quite slippery, and we tend to do well in it. We won the roof quite a few years ago in the rain, so we're looking forward to it. But I think it's going to be quite hair-raising. We drop over 1,000 meters into Selby over the next couple of Ks, so it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll see how it goes. We had a good time, Sal, and looking forward to it.
Leg 1, a 167-kilometer stage, with the route running from the edge of the escarpment east of Lydenburg and next to the Long Tom Pass. Some forests and cliffs, but the worst threat of the day for disaster was undoubtedly the mist. The defending national champ Krobler went out hard, and after 100 Ks of racing, he built a commanding 10-minute cushion. But that all changed pretty quickly. First, they whacked a sapling which sent bodywork flying, and then a wheel hub disintegrated. Despite some hard work, swearing and cajoling, the champion couldn't finish the stage. Cox had his own dramas after navigator Pitchford and he had made the wrong call and got lost. That cost them at least 5 minutes by their own calculations. To top that, they had a severe sealing problem inside the cockpit, and the dust was almost unbearable. But once the mist settled in on top of the berg, Gary Beltelt and Siegfried Rousseau were moving well, but taking no chances. The Duplessis brothers were settling in nicely and found the conditions to their liking in their Jimco 3.4 Porsche. Super Pave's brother and son combination, the Walks were still basking in the afterglow of their prologue runners-up spot and were also cautious. In contrast, Variawa and Francel were going as hard as they could and were picking up time in Class A. Their Porter 4.6 was sounding great. Bevan Bertelt and Nick Solomolela and their bat had to work hard as they were trying to make an impression on the class leaders. Clint Gibson and his co-driver Marcel Trethrui, who was experiencing of all things car sickness in their back Chevy. They finished 8th in the prologue, proving that they were quick. The spectators enjoyed them too. Comrades runner Nick Harper and his son Ryan were looking for victory number 2 of the 05 season. Ford driver Manfred Schroeder and his nav Alec Harris, racing in the production vehicle category, were astounding friend and foe with a super efficient drive which hauled them up the standings a long way. In the Nashua mobile car, the lanky Terence Marsh and Michael Whitehouse were leading the Class A struggle, but perhaps he was going a little too slowly, sticking to his strategy of caution first. For Mark Cronje and co-driver Chris Birkin, the Toyota Dealer 1000 came to an unexpected and brief stop. Cronje a little aggressive. He rolls it once and then tries to get it going, and then the real drama starts. Cronje was taken to hospital for concussion, but Birkin, sporting a fine shiner himself, was able to explain what happened.
We came around the top corner there, we hit this jump over here, which is sort of a slightly offset jump. That sort of threw us to the left-hand side. We came with sort of 2 wheels almost off the edge. Mark managed to catch it, and we sort of ended up with going over the edge here. We sort of basically ended off the road with the nose pointing towards the road, and as we tried to pull up, the front sort of washed away, and then we sort of rolled all the way down this hill, down to the bottom where the log in the river is. It was quite a hectic moment.
And after that?
Well, we sort of both climbed out. So we were a bit sort of dazed, but we sort of both healthy and strong.
And then how come the car ended up down there in the background?
There was fortunately the guy who owns this farm. He came with a tractor, and they sort of managed to winch up the rear end out of the river, and they sort of made a road and sort of basically pulled us from where we'd landed there right the way to where the road is there. So we're sort of very, very thankful that they came to haul us out.
So the spectacular roll dents the championship hopes of Cronje and Birkin in Class D quite severely. Frikkie Botha and Nav Freddy Fourie, on the other hand, were keeping it on the road and were piling on the pressure as they started passing other A-class cars. In Class E, Jaapie Visser and Chris Badenhorst were doing exactly the same. They were picking up the pieces and would eventually finish 4th overall, clocking 2 hours and 44 minutes, just 5 minutes behind the winner. The motorized crew of Evan Hutchinson and Vincent Horn in their back 2-litre Nissan had started troubles before the off, but once they got the little black and silver demon going, it was really going well. Unaware that his brother had taken a big tumble, Gavin Cronje and his navigator Robin Houghton upstaged a lot of the big names. They would eventually finish in 2 hours and 43 minutes in their Castrol Toyota 2.7. In Class A, Will Battershill and Reg Sutton in their Jimco were looking very efficient and finished in the top 20. The Ryobi Mitsubishi of Henry Zermatten and Bodo Zwegler has been ultra-consistent, in fact so much so that they hold the world record for finishing off-road events. 20 thus far and still going strong, and judging by their form on day 1, the trend was bound to continue. To top that, Henry is determined to give himself a big birthday present. He turns 45 on Sunday. Zane Pierce was leading in Class E with an impeccable drive that he really enjoyed. In fact, most of the drivers were very complimentary about Ruth and the Toyota Dealer 1000. Paolo Piazzamuso and Oki Furi and another of the Castrol Toyota 2.7s recovered well after finishing out of the top 20 in the prologue. The top car duo of Dion Skuman and co-driver Jan Syme and Nissen were on top of their game, as it seemed that the conditions overhead and underfoot suited them perfectly. Another big surprise on the 167k shift to Sabi was John Thompson and Clinton McNamara, who really flew along. They took 14th place overall and hauled themselves up in Class B. Phil Null and his hard-working nav Peter Newbury and their look Subaru 2-litre was eating up the ground. They really seemed to relish the conditions and were passing left, right and centre as they sped along. Class B and Ernest Corbett and Warwick Hooson and their Audi-powered 1.9 were clearly enjoying themselves. And the prologue surprise of the day, Karl-Heinz Solbach just picked up where he left off after the first 9Ks. His mighty nag was holding up well, and so was he. When Cox eventually clocked in, he'd made up all the time lost and then some. He finished 3 minutes and 55 seconds ahead of the rest, but the 167Ks certainly took its toll.
We got lost about 3 kilometers into the stage, and the road book was not so clear, and we ended up coming back. We lost 4 or 5 minutes. We got from second place, I think, to almost 5th place. And then we saw Corbett leave the road, shame, in the Sandmaster, in a big hole. But then we ended up coming into the mist, and really, literally, you couldn't see 2 meters in front of you. It was the worst day we've ever had, must be honest. But, you know, all in all, it was long and tedious in the forest. You know, you have to always control yourself because you can slip off the road so easily. So, sure, for a rally stage it was good, but it was quite tough for an off-road. A lot of concentration. But we hear that we didn't realize that Hannes. We thought he was gone. I mean, after we lost the time this morning, and we thought let's just settle down and go on that pace. We heard that he's out. He's broken something. So, you know, the race is not over. It's a long way to go, and the idea was to conserve the car right until the last day, which
you've got that right, haven't you?
We have to do that now, yeah.
As for Krobler, he incurred the maximum time penalty for not finishing after that broken wheel. He's more than 3 hours behind his main challenger and teammate Cox. It was a tough old day out there for the defending champion.
We went very quick, and we had some mist, and at one time the one corner caught me out, and it was very slippery, and we sideswiped a young tree there. That's why we haven't got anything at the back here. But about 100 kilos further, we had a problem on the front hub, and that broke, and we couldn't fix it. We drove on 3 wheels for a while. But yeah, it's a pity, but it looks like we can restart tomorrow. We'll see.
You're expecting quite a heavy time penalty though, aren't you?
Yes, I think at least 2 hours, you know, so it's going to put us right at the back. But it's still 900 kilos to go, you know, 900 kilos. A lot can happen there, you know. It's not impossible to win.
Never say die is our Mr. Krobler. Ford Racing's Manfred Schroeder was a little surprised, but at the same time delighted to be second overall and also leading in Class D.
Oh, this track is beautiful. I mean, it's the most fun we've had in a car for a long, long time. You know, I prefer the rally type fast stages. It was very nice. You know, very disappointing when we got to the top. The mist was thick. We couldn't see where we were going. And I said, oh dear, here goes our nice road. But when we got to the bottom, it was nice and clear, and you could go flat out and caught quite a few space frames. They let us pass, and Jan had a beautiful, clean run.
How are you going to approach tomorrow? Because obviously tomorrow is make or break.
Yeah, I think tomorrow is not quite the same. What we heard, it's not quite the same sort of track. Obviously, we have to back off in a Class C bucky. You know, you can't go as fast over the rough stuff as you can go over the smooth stuff. Yeah, we'll see where the opposition is, and then we'll make a plan and take it from there.
Toyota's Zane Pierce piloted to a fine second place in class and 12th overall. For them, it was all about the pace.
Yeah, we paced ourselves. There were some hell of a fast sections, and I think if you really push, you could get yourself into trouble. We saw a few guys off the road who were obviously going a bit too fast. we decided to slow down a bit. And, you know, it's just the start of a 3-day event, so you need to finish every day to get here to finish.
But you look like you're beaming. You look like you enjoyed that.
Yeah, no, it was really good. It was some really nice cross sections, relatively smooth compared to races we had this year so far. A few rocky sections, but nothing really, really tight like we had in previous years.
Go! The top 10, and Cox will be able to nurse his car to the finish on Saturday and still get a win, which should give him a great championship shot. But there are still several hundred Ks to go. Schroeder and Harris impressed and would want to continue in the same vein. Day 2 sees the longest 2 legs of the Toyota Dealer 1000, with 2 stages totaling 540 Ks, and the finish banner will be a very welcome sight come Saturday afternoon after around 1,000 Ks. The last day also includes a tortuous mountain climb or 2, so man and machine will be tested to the limit. The FIA are also along for the ride to observe on whether South Africa can indeed present a round of the FIA World Cup for cross-country rallies. Early morning, Lydenburg and Mpumalanga. The mechanics and support crews have had very little sleep. In fact, some of them haven't had any at all. This is, after all, a 1,000-kilometer event, and with the biggest day ahead, it meant that the cars had to be in tip-top shape to brave the mountains, mist, rocks, forests, humps, jumps, and bumps of the second leg. The championship battle after day 1 and a short prologue. In the first leg over 167 Ks, Alfie Cox and navigator Rolf Pitchford led by almost 4 minutes, with defending champion Hannes Grobler also in a proudly South African Nissan hardbody a long way back after breaking his vehicle and incurring time penalties. It's day 2 of the Toyota Dealer 1000, and it's a tough day. There are 2 legs. Leg 1 consists of 314 kilometers with 75 Ks of open section, and then leg 2, 244 kilometers, totaling 560 kilometers of very, very hard racing. Uncompromising and tough racing it would be as well. Cox was philosophical about his chances on day 2.
We got, I think, a little bit lucky because Hannes obviously broke and he had a 13-minute lead on us yesterday. He was really pushing hard, and so short, fallen in our hands. But the problem is it's 900 kilometers still to go, and you know, that's 2 races on their own, and we've just got to bring this car home at the moment now. We don't have a lot of people right on our tail. Obviously, we're going to just try and keep it smooth and look after the car. That's basically all. No racing, just 900 kilometers is a long way.
Cox and Pitcher have won 3 races in a row in the championship series, and they know and trust each other. Listen to the in-car communication.
90 left. 90 left, yeah. And then over the river, sweep to the left.
The man in second place in a Ford was Manfred Schroeder with his co-driver Alec Harris. They were just 3 minutes and 55 seconds behind the Nissan Motorsport lads and leading Class D. The Ford 4-litre engine sounded like it was asking to be manhandled some more. Third was filled by Gavin Cronje and Robin Houghton. Cronje's brother Mark had a horrendous crash the day before and was taken to hospital for concussion, and no doubt he would have had that in the back of his mind. Still, he started off in a controlled and smooth manner, clearly meaning business on the third leg of the Toyota Dealer 1000 over 314 Ks.
200 meters, keep right here. 100, turn hairpin right. Turn hairpin right.
In the manufacturer's race for supremacy, the Toyota boys were leading the Nissans by a healthy 75 points. So as always, the Japanese manufacturers dominating the ABSA SA Off-Road Championship.
Right to the left over ditch. 300 meters, T-junction right. T-junction turn right.
The E-Class leaders were KwaZulu-Natal's Chris Visser and Jaapie Badenhorst, who impressed all and sundry with their solid approach and reliable Tyco trucks Toyota. They were 5 minutes ahead of Zane Pierce and Henny Vosloo in class. Up next was defending champion Hannes Grobler and Nav Francois Jordan. They started in class, but in effect they were more than 3 hours behind. Grobler explains that he believes it's not a lost cause.
It was very tight. We enjoyed the stage. It was like a rally stage. but unluckily for us, we broke a front hub. We managed to put a new one in. The service crew brought was one in for us, and we fixed it. And we got to the end, but we've got now a penalty of about 3 hours. So we're about 3.5 hours behind. So hopefully it's not going to be easy to catch, but it's still a long way. Today I think it's about 500 kilos. Tomorrow it's another 400 kilos. And it's another 2 national races. You know, anything can happen. So we're going to give it and see where we get.
That never-say-die attitude has seen the burly man win no less than 3 championships spanning 19 years. And he was clearly on a mission. So little time, so many cars to overtake. The Gerard Duplessis Fandy Circus combination in their Jimco 3.4 Porsche were leading Class A and were also the first space frame in the race. Gary Berthold and his partner in crime, Siegfried Rousseau, was 6 minutes behind Cox, but just 65 seconds behind the Duplessis car in Class A. Clint Gibson and Marcel Dupuy were chasing after them in the 8th place. They, incidentally, were 18th on the championship log with 18 points, so a good haul of points were imperative for them. The Porter with their heavy breathing, back Shamir Viriawa and VZ Van Zyl pottering along in a 4.6-litre car. They performed well in the prologue and held their own very nicely during the first leg. Now they would have to prove that their car could stay the distance. Navigator Bouter Schwegler and driver Henry Zermatten shooting for their 21st consecutive finish in an off-road, a world record. They started off with a bang and looked very likely to add to their astounding tally. The talkative driver was obviously trying to look after the world mark, but at the same time, be competitive. The 2002 national champ Duncan Foss and his co-driver Henny Tersteeg had encountered bottom ball joint problems, which recurred again on leg 2. This left them hours behind the rest of the contenders and with virtually no hope of victory. Up front, Cox was going as cautiously as a man with racing in his blood can go. The Dakar Rally stalwart and his Nissan Motorsport team are looking for win number 31 of the last 39 events since the start of the 2001 season. And judging by their cautious but effective approach, Cox and Pitchford were right on track. And we wondered, did the race note say anything about caution livestock? Perhaps not.
They all think the farmer's bringing food.
Yeah. Okay, it's narrow there, through the rocks.
Still, Cox was controlling things nicely. Schroeder and Harris, meanwhile, were going as they predicted. Their class of vehicle could not match the other classes for speed over this type of terrain, and they were just trying to hang tough in the Ford, but they lost 11 minutes to Cox on this stage. It's a very hard and very shaky day at the office. Cronje and Houghton were still in 3rd place, but when they looked in their rearview mirror, they would have seen the ominous red flash of an angry Nissan. Krobler was on the charge. Like a proverbial bull in a china shop, he was catching all and sundry, and in less than 150 k's, he'd caught up to the Castrol Toyota. Riding along with Cronje in car and stay tuned. It wasn't long before the barrel-chested Krobler barreled past the white, red and green livery 2.7 in a cloud of red and Mpumalanga dust. Sayonara, see you later. But the story of the day was Alfie Cox, nursing his car around yet still going away from the rest. Just after halfway on leg 2, he was enjoying a 60-second lead over Clinton Gibson, but the man who had nailed his colours to the mast was Grobler. The 2003 and 04 champ had picked up 10 minutes on Cox. Not enough to be a threat, but enough to impress everyone. Further back, Cronje and Houghton soldiered on bravely. In car now with Chris Visser and Jaapie Baardnorst in their Tyco Trucks Toyota Hilux 2.7 and going well in Class E. The route consisted of a lovely marriage of open road as well as some rocky sections, and then you could also take the odd swim. Further back, the Space Train cars were also doing their thing, but being slightly more cautious. Gary Bertelt driving in his normal style, all out or foot in the hook. This part of the route also doubled back on itself, so you could find out exactly who you were shooting at and how far ahead they were of you. As for the Toyotas, they certainly felt the pressure in racing in the Toyota Dealer 1000. Don't you always want to do well for your supplier? Luckily, moderate temperatures too throughout most of the day, so it wasn't too heavy on car or on man. Gibson and Three going well in the Gibson plant hire space frame car, and they were picking up time and positions as they sped along. "60 kilometers from the designated service point, or DSP, an in-car with Mark Corbett and Nabs Juan Moore, who were batting along at a fair old clip, even though they were more than 2 hours off the pace. And with a race of this length, here's the reason why it's good to just keep it going. They shoot past a stricken Shamir Variawa and VZ van Sale, who ground to a halt with gearbox problems. Meanwhile, Duncan Voss was trying to get the momentum going in the all-new Nissan ST Class 4-litre, but even though the crew were giving it stick, the hard body was sounding rather the worse for wear. A serious misfire that prompted Voss and Terstegen to take a peek under the bonnet. Luckily, they were able to do something about it and to keep it going. Zermatten and Schwegler going well in the Ryobi Mitsubishi. Top Car magazine editor Dion Skuman and Top Car television producer Jan Simon had a blind on day one in their Nissan 3.3, and they just picked up where they left off. They were 11th overall, but soon after this, their trouble started, and they took almost 6 hours to complete the 314 Ks.
The African savannah at dusk, normally a peaceful environment.
And the black and silver motorized racing team back with 13th overall after day one, and a consistent if unspectacular drive saw them move up to just outside the top 10 and take the lead in Class B. Evan was driving that Nissan 2-litre with great care, a true conservation act. Zane Pess was the man in Hutchison's rearview mirror, but not for long. The Toyota driver is the Class E championship leader, but soon after had to call it a day with mechanical problems. John Thompson and Clinton McNamara were chasing after B-Class leader Hutchison in their Zarko, and the 4x4 Swazi Club team was in 14th place overall. But they were caught by the Harpers with great rapidity. In fact, the father and son combination clocked the 5th fastest time of the day on the stage, which lifted them right up into the top 10. A fine drive for the Audi-powered Bat. The distinctive yellow space frame of Hill Null and co-Peter Newbury. They were wringing out every single ounce of horsepower out of their Subaru. Even though it was sounding like it needed a bit of oil. The Bozel Landy flying along like that belongs to the Moffats, Mark and Stewart, who were very solid in what ended up being a clean run for them over the 300-odd Ks. Dirk van Reenen Sr. and Jr. was the second E-Class car in their Ford 2.5, and this fine run on this leg hauled in 2 positions for them on the overall classification. At the refuel point at the Roos Senegal School, young Gavin Cronier and co-driver Robin Houghton were still taking the caution-first approach in their Toyota.
Yeah, it was going pretty well. We wrong slotted, lost quite a lot of time there, but we're back where we want to be, and just got to chase down the rest of the guys in front of us, and still a long day ahead of us and a long day tomorrow. So it should just preserve the car and keep it in one piece is the main aim, and get to the end.
Another Toyota was making the race sponsors and Toyota team manager Wami Haddad a happy man. Paulo Piazzamusa and Oki Fari blasted their way from 7th to 4th after clocking the 3rd fastest time for the first 180 Ks. Meanwhile, Krobler had gone completely ape and passed everyone, including race leader Cox. And even though he was driving like a lunatic, the champion wasn't catching up enough to make a large dent on Cox's lead. Krobler has won twice this season, at the 2nd round in Darling in the Western Cape and in the 6th race of the season in Limpopo. Cox was Mr. Caution himself, what with there only being 16 points between himself and teammate Krobler in the championship race. Alfie carded 3 consecutive victories, the Toyota 1000 Desert Race, round 4 the Sun City 400 and 5 the Lesotho Sun 400. But Krobler has been more consistent, while Cox had 2 did not finish notes behind his name at the beginning of the season.
How's the fork right here? 400, sweep right.
Manfred Schroeder was also letting it all hang out. He was still talking about how much he was enjoying the route, and he was having a tremendous dance with Visser and Cronier. Everyone concerned with the race were also hoping that the FIA officials would be enjoying themselves. The World Motorsports controlling body administrators were there to observe on whether South Africa would be capable of hosting a round of the 2006 Cross Country World Championship Series. Off-road champion Richard Leek was showing them around. Chris Visser and Jaapie Paardenhout in their Toyota 2.7 clocked 3 hours and 46 minutes for the 300 plus Ks, and that dropped them down a few spots from their overnight position of 4th. The same scenario repeated itself with Cronier and Houghton. They were 3rd overall after day 1 shenanigans. A solid 2nd leg saw them drop down 2 positions. The father and son combination, Robert and Gareth Walk and their Chenoweth, were 18th overall and making inroads on the Class B, D and E vehicles in front of them. That was despite suffering a tyre blowout while travelling at 200 k's an hour, or what they called a little moment afterwards. After going as hard as he could, the defending champion shot up from 43rd to 26th, clocking the fastest time for the stage, 2 hours and 29 minutes. At the finish, Krobler's navigator Francois Jordan, himself a champion from 2001, gave us the rundown on the ride.
Going very well. We made up some time on LP. I think they had a bit of a problem with the route. It was very difficult finding the route, and we passed them. And then from then on, it was plain sailing. The route's very, very difficult to find at places, but it's fast and it's rocky at places. It's something of everything, and we're really enjoying it. Our car's holding out well. Our tires are let going, but we're enjoying it so far.
The hosts impress. After not having a vehicle in the top 10, the biggest selling motor manufacturer in South Africa now had 3 Toyotas in the top 10. They were smiling broadly. As for the Clint Gibson Marcel for 3 combination, they had everyone sitting up and taking notice. They clocked the 5th fastest time for the stage.
Everything's going very well. We're having a nice run today. Not pushing too hard. We're just keeping up a nice steady pace. We've still got 250 k's to do today. The route's very fast in Status. The fastest we've clocked is 190 kilometers. There are some rough rocks, rough terrain. Yeah, just looking forward to the last 250 k's to get back to home for tonight.
And that last stage, over 244 k's, would shoot out to Palmer, Machadodorp, Kruisfontein and back to Lydenburg, making 560 long k's for the day. After another quick start, Grobler was focused on one thing and one thing alone, getting to the Lydenburg Rugby Club and getting there quickly. But first, give the train the respect it deserves. Cox, meanwhile, was looking to grab the 25 points on offer for a win. This was the 7th and penultimate leg of the ABSA Off-Road National Championship Series, so his attitude was, let them come at me, I'm just going to keep it consistent. And that's what the former motorbike star was doing, absolutely perfectly. The blue Ford of Manfred Schroeder and co-driver Alec Harris has been faultless, and so has their driving bin. Schroeder was at pains to point out to us that his vehicle could not quite maintain the speeds of the A-Class lads, but he gave his D-Class leadership status up to a flying Paolo Piazzamuso and his nav Oki Furi in their Castrol Toyota 2.7. They had scorched over the Lydenburg hills and dales to record a 3-hour, 26-minute journey for the 244 Ks. But undoubtedly the ride of the day came from the Harpers. They shot up to 3rd in class and 6th overall with the 4th fastest ride of the day on leg 3. The bad luck story of day 2, though, again for them, unfortunately, was the top car lads. Skuman and Syme had big drama, and after a lot of scurrying around to get the Nissan roadworthy again, they dropped from 11th to 24th in one fell swoop. The lads who jokingly called themselves Naim and Nazim, the tyre rack crew, caught everyone off guard by winning Class S in the last race in Limpopo when they cracked the Ford Motorride 400 title. Naim Mosaji and Moti Nazim were obviously having a rip-roaring time. The funny of the day went to Bevan Bartelt and navigator Nick Solomolela in their I-Burst bath. They burst or bust 2 tyres, then borrowed one from Hutchison and Horn on the proviso that they stay behind the motorized pair. Well, you guessed it, they punctured and wanted their spare back. Luckily, the I-Burst boys found another spare and made it back to base in 16th place. Back in Lydenburg, it was Grobler who brought the procession home in a time of 3 hours and 13 minutes. But they had their troubles. They broke an anti-roll bar, which in turn snapped a brake pipe. They stopped for repairs, but had the cruise end. Cox, though, was as good as his word. He stuck to his guns, half-loaded as they were, because all he had to do to win this one is to keep it on the road.
Yeah, look, like I said this morning, 900 kilometers was this morning's call. And, you know, we finished 550 today with another 400 tomorrow. So, you know, in South African racing, that's another whole race. So the car's been absolutely unbelievable, touch wood. So I'm hoping that tomorrow, and at the moment, I'm just, you know, playing it by ear. I know Hannes is attacking a little bit. He lost a bit of time today, and I came back on him. But I think he's won the day, but overall, I'm still leading. And for me, the points for the championship, I'd love to go into Carnival City leading the championship with not as much pressure as Hannes is going to have.
The Gibson for 3 combination was super staunch on leg 3, and they notched up a superb runners-up spot on the accumulated results. In their back 5-point Chevy, they were going well. Their strategy definitely paid off and leaves them leading Class A by 3 minutes.
Yeah, we had a good day today. We had a strategy to take it slow, which we did do. The last 50 Ks, we started putting the hammer down, so we could obviously try and catch up to Gary, and I think we've hopefully done enough to put us on pole tomorrow in the special.
We've had a terrible year. It was very interesting today with a new format, with the road books. It was very busy for the navigators today. There were decontrols, you know, liaison stages. But it's been fantastically organized. We're enjoying it. And just tomorrow, yeah, my driver's been brilliant. And tomorrow we'll just try and keep it tidy and get to the end.
We pulled in the desert race also first in the overnight stop. I think tomorrow's still a long day ahead. I don't think anybody can count their chickens yet. I think it's going to be a tough day tomorrow. The racing is certainly close. The guys are really neck and neck. There's probably a minute and a half between myself and the next chap. And it's good, tough racing out there. Fantastic route, nice event, well organised. Compliments to the organisers.
Indeed, a tired-looking Manfred Schroeder dropped back 4 positions to second in his class. And in the Ford for the second day in a row, here navigator Alec Harris had a ball.
It was great fun today. I mean, we had, you know, in the fast sections we went flat out as fast as we could. I love the faster the race, the better for me. And then we were expecting the space frames to catch us in the rough section, and they still haven't sort of caught us. Yeah, no, we're having a great time out there. I mean, we did 558 Ks today, and the bucky is absolutely nothing wrong with it again. Just gone through it, rotated the tyres, and you're ready for tomorrow again.
After almost 700 Ks of racing, and it's a lead of 17 minutes for Cox over Gibson, but he actually has a class lead of almost an hour and a half over the next Class A car. Piazza Musso leads the D class, while Yapi Visser is ahead in Class E. There were 45 vehicles left in the race. Who will be top of the class at the Toyota Dealer 1000? We'll tell you tomorrow night at 10:30. The 2005 Toyota Dealer 1000 was presented by ABSA and brought to you by Toyota. This is Extreme Off-Road, brought to you by ABSA. We present the 2005 Toyota Dealer Rally. Third and final day of the Toyota Dealer 1000 off-road event had all and sundry going in Lydenburg, the scene of 2 fine days worth of racing already. The event was also being adjudicated by the World Motorsports controlling body, the FIA, in the hope of the Rainbow Nation being granted an event on the world circuit next year. So the locals were out to try and impress, and that they did. After 2 days and 4 stages, resulting in almost 700 Ks worth of racing, it was Alfie Cox and navigator Ralph Pitchford who were in front in their proudly South African Nissan hardbody. They were more than 17 minutes to the better, ahead of Clint Gibson and Marcel Trethry in their batch Chevy. Cox, a former Dakar Rally 2-wheel star, only had to nurse the car to the line 367 Ks later to claim the win in class and overall victory, with his nearest rival more than 80 minutes back. Still, Cox knew that only a marriage between caution and aggression would win it for him, and he had to make the hard body stay true to its name. In second place, the Clint Gibson-Marcel Trethry combination was putting together a great showing. They were 8th after day 1, but a fine 3rd and 4th leg saw them shift up to 2nd and 1st in Class A for space frame cars. The Mpumalanga crowd were enjoying the noisy spectacle as Gary Bartelt and his nab Siegfried Rousseau in their iBurst Bat 3.5 took to the start of leg 4 over 207 kilometers through more than 25 farms, with a tough mountain section thrown in for good measure. The 2002 national champ Duncan Vos was as far back as he's ever been after a serious misfire caused a loss of power. Still, he and co Henny ter Steege were determined to pick up some positions. Their expressions in car told you so. But all eyes were on the defending SA champion Hannes Schwabler and his man, the mustachioed Francois Jordan. The Nissan Motorsport gents were given maximum time penalties after not completing the first leg on Thursday, and they were on a hiding to nothing. But no one told Hannes that. While Hannes was throwing everything at it, some people will do anything to get the money shot, like getting absolutely soaked. Yeah, well, no fun. The space frame cars were giving the production cars a real run for their money due to the terrain and the varying stages of rallying on and off-road. Mark Corbett and Jean Moore were 8th in Class A and were piloting their Century Properties Development's car up the field. The Toyota team and manager Wayne Haddad was smiling broadly when 3 Toyotas had made their appearance in the top 10. Paulo Piazzamusa was one of them, in 4th overall and leading Class D. As for Ford, well, their top vehicle was being piloted to a spirited run in Lydenburg. Manfred Schroeder was second after day 2, dropped down to 5th overall and second in Class D behind the Toyota, but the lanky driver was having a lot of fun in the big 4-litre. Cox, meanwhile, was applying his mind and racing with a lot of savvy. All he really had to do to clinch the 25 championship points on offer was to finish, and that's what he was on his way to doing. But make no mistake, Cox is a racer at heart, and he was going fast at the same time. The hard body was sounding mighty fine too. Gibson was having a near-faultless run, and ever since the short prologue on day 1, he's been bugging the big-name teams. He and Three weren't overawed by the big scalps they were putting away one by one. Another big name in off-roading in South Africa is the Berthold moniker. This time it was Gary with Siegfried Rousseau next to him. They were squeezing their advanced soft I-burst bat as hard as they could in 3rd place and 2nd in Class A. Voss in the big 4-litre pickup that will compete in the new SP class in 2006 was 36 overall after their nightmares on legs 1 and 3. But this fitness fanatic mountain biker does not know a thing about giving up and was going hard, very hard. The same could be said for his Nissan teammate Grobler.
Sharp to your right, het voor op the right. 100 meters, 90 left. It's 90 left.
Another big name in SA Motorsport is Piazzamusa. Paulo was in the Toyota with Nav Okifuri, and these two had a smooth run from the word go. They were 7th after day 1, 4th after day 2, and were looking to improve on that on the final day. The father and son combination of Nick and Ryan Harper were eating up the ground. Nick is yet another fit man who takes no prisoners in his back 4.2 Audi engine space frame. Schroeder, leading Class D in that distinctive blue Ford, was gliding over the smooth farm road, albeit a little squeaky. Chris Visser and co-Jaapie Badenhorst featured in the 2nd Toyota in the top 10. Visser was lying 8th on the Production Car Drivers' Championship points log, and he was sure to better that with his 7th place here in Lydenburg. Corbett and Moore were 28th overall, but that's where it ended. They were going well up to the 60k mark of the 4th leg, and then things started sounding decidedly wonky in the back. A broken left arm, and that was the end of the road for them. The crew in 8th place overall was Cronje and Houghton. They had gearbox problems, which then resulted in a burnt clutch, but some fine work by their crew got them back on track and back in the Toyota Dealer 1000.
Single caution, Japs. 4 of them.
The 3rd Nissan and the 2nd one to be in the wars was Duncan Foss's Steed, which was not that trusty this time. He just could not get it going properly and had little niggles throughout. Here he talks them over with Nissan Motorsport General Manager Glenn Hall. Another family combination, this time the Walks, Robert and Gareth in their Chenoweth were going like the proverbial Boeing. Overnight they'd slotted into the 10th place, but had already picked up one more. Henry Zermatten and co Bodo Schregler were well on their way to extending their world record run of consecutive finishes, 21 of them. The Ryobi Mitsubishi was just rolling along like it was a leisurely Sunday afternoon drive. Even though they were only using 2-wheel drive, After some strange stiff noises, they were solid. Terence Marsh and his navigator Michael Whitehouse in the Nashua Mobile Bat. Whitehouse is the leader in the Co-Drivers National Championships with 74 points, 7 ahead of Ryan Harper. Despite fanball trouble, they were picking up positions wildly. The Motorrad Racing teams Evan Hutchinson and Vincent Horn had started in 13th, but had whittled away and were leading the B class by a healthy margin. Hutchinson's crew had done a complete prep on the car again after day 2 and had it race ready for the final push. It was worth the all-night effort. And the car certainly takes a pounding. The man with a nice first name, Arnold Duplessis, and his partner Johan Knox in their 3.3-litre Nissan had languished down there in 31st place after 2 days of racing. But boy oh boy, they were barreling up the standings. They were up to 3rd in class, picking up 3 places. Phil Nell and Peter Newbury and the Look Subaru 2-litre were in 20th and 9th in class, but disaster struck soon after this, as they ran into mechanical problems themselves. Mark and Stuart Moffat and the Landy with a 2.5 BMW engine were 22nd, but a big push in stage 4 and an even bigger one in 5 gave them a huge boost up to 13th and 2nd in class. The Aleco Nissan of Nardis Alberts and Colin Hunter was still going well here, but mechanical failure put them out just afterwards. Another DNF or did not finish on the cards. Bevan Bertelt and co-Nick Salamolela had puncture troubles on day 2, and yes, the wind was taken out of their tyres again on day 3. Bertelt is known for not holding back much, so the iBurst bat knew all about it. The Ray Sonic's Nissan 3.3 of Kutsela Beskachny and Johan Gerber was plagued with electrical problems, and they even lost their odometer, but worse was to come when they had to call it a day with their own mechanical worries. The team of Naeem Mosaji and Martin Azim in their space frame car started off in 35th place after day 1, moved to 18th on day 2, but took more than 11 hours to complete the 4th and 5th stages with mechanical troubles of their own. The top car duo of Dion Skuman and Jan Syme had recollected themselves after falling from 11th on day 1 to 24th. Hichu and Jaap de Bruin in a Toyota Hilux were nailing competitors in front of them with monotonous regularity and went from 25th to inside the top 20 in the first 200 Ks. At the designated service point after 207 kilometers with a visit through Dahlstrom, it was Alfie Cox and co-driver Ralph Pitchford who extended their lead by more than 15 minutes through some fine concentration and good car handling on the rougher terrain. The Nissan Motorsport crew is a well-oiled machine, and here in temperatures touching the 30-degree mark, they were doing their thing. Grobler was still feeling like he had a chance of rescuing some championship points. After all, he was leading Cox by 16, and the 3-time champ was showing an amazing amount of fuss paint and self-belief. As Cox took a mini shower, Jordan, a champion co-driver in 01, was explaining that they knew the win was a lost cause.
We're actually having a lot of fun. It's a nice rally so far. We had one incident where the bunting from yesterday was still over the road and we didn't really know where to go to, so we hesitated a bit there. But apart from that, we're enjoying it. We're trying our best to catch up. I know it's a bit of a hopeless task, but as the saying goes in racing, everything can happen, so we're just pushing on as fast as we can.
Cox was happy to have a dust-free run at the head of affairs and knew that he had to keep the hard body going at all costs.
Yeah, no, look, being in front really does help with the dust, you know, so we're just keeping a very good pace. And sure, we've got a couple of minutes in hand, but we've got sort of like 150 or 170 kilometers to go now after this 1,000K race. So it's been counting down every day, but everything's going fine. The car's been fantastic today. The route that put us on today was a real off-road route. I've really enjoyed today. And yeah, hopefully the next bit, I think, is a little bit of last year, which was also a very good route too. So old thumbs, we're nearly there, and we just got to keep it going. Hopefully everything goes okay.
As for Clinton Gibson and Marcel Trethry in the Gibson Plant Hire Bat, they found the going a little rough.
Very rough, but on the second part now, the last 50 Ks, we obviously got back onto the route that we did yesterday, which made life a lot easier for us. We could obviously pick up the pace a bit, but yeah, overall we're having a fantastic time. We're we haven't got lost and the car's behaving itself. Good preparation, good car. We over the moon.
Well, one crew that wasn't exactly over the moon was the iBurst team of Gary Bartelt and Siegfried Rousseau. They had more time trouble.
We had a puncture in the first 40 Ks, then everything went all right. We made up lots of time on Clint Gibson. We were about 1 minute, 2 minutes behind them, and then we got a puncture in the last 12 Ks to go to home. We couldn't get the jack up, jack is broken, and yeah, and then the power steering belt came off, so the last 10 Ks were very, very hard for us.
The Gavin Grenier-Robin Houghton pairing was 7th overall and 3rd in class, and were having a better time of it on day 3.
Not bad this morning, much better than yesterday, more consistent run. Been very pleased with the car. We got through a couple of guys quite quickly this morning, chased the forward down, took 6 minutes out of him, and he had a puncture and managed to pull away a little bit. Fortunately, Oda stopped working about 50 k's from the finish. We weren't sure at one point and went back just to make sure and lost maybe a minute there. So the forwards finished about 1 minute 20, so we've taken 7.5 minutes. Still 2.5 minutes to go, so we've got to pull out on them again this lap.
Positivity in action, and they knew exactly what had to be done. The 4 they were talking about belonged to Manfred Schroeder, whose team were working on the time configurations. So, how were they going?
No, very well. We had one puncture, and then we changed, or we hit the tree, reversed into a tree, and the spare wheels were jammed, so we battled a bit to get the spare wheel out. And then did another 20 k's, and then the strap came loose off the flat wheel, so we had to stop and tie that one down again. Then we ended up eventually, I think we were 5 minutes behind Gavin. You know, he came past us, but we made up a minute. I think he needs to be about 6 minutes ahead of us for him to lead the class, and he's a minute and a half. So we're going to try and maintain that gap. You know, if we maintain that gap, then we'll win the class.
The start of the 5th and final stage over around 100 miles or 160 kilometers, and Cox nursing the Nissan hardbody back to Lydenburg, but maintaining enough pressure to stay ahead of the pack. The Gibson Trethui team were now 17 minutes back, but in turn, they were more than 15 minutes up on their nearest Class A rivals, the Harpers. This partnership was certainly going places, and Nick and Ryan had gone from 6th to 3rd, passing some big names on the way to a storming run. In fact, the 3rd fastest time of stage 4. They had passed Schroeder, who knew what the score was, and he had to maintain. Just observe the smooth driving and relaxed expression of the man at work. Class D is hotly contested this season, and Manfred is just 5 points off the lead with Sir Matten in front, and Mark Grenier, who crashed out on day 1, a mere 4 points ahead. The points all here would lift him to the top of the class. In the off-road handbook of how not to, this maneuver isn't in there, but it should be. Hutchison going right and then left. Well, it is the Toyota Dealer 1000. Yes, everything keeps going right. But despite that little mishap, the toughest deep driver went from 11th to 7th after storming, driving, and the fastest clocking on the 5th and final leg of the race, which is also the penultimate leg of the ABSA Off-Road National Championship Series. The great drive secured that 2005 title for him. As for Visser and Badenhorst in Class E, they got a solid lead in the championship race over Toyota's Zane Pierce, who led the category but was a casualty on day 2 of the Dealer 1000. They went from 7th to 5th in their Toyota. Zamatten finished right on their tail though. He went 3 minutes faster than his foes, but just could not quite catch them. Still, the man celebrated his 45th birthday in style with a new world record. The Superpave team of Robert and Gareth Walk were impressive to say the least, despite 5 punctures. A super efficient drive took them from 10th to 8th and 3rd place in Class A. Back in car with Grobler and Jordan, and then, as if they hadn't had enough, more drama. A bolt on the suspension broke.
top shot?
And they lost more than half an hour there. As for Marsh and Whitehouse, they were just keeping their noses to the grindstone. Their race-long strategy was just to get the car and themselves there in one piece, and they were succeeding. Their crusade was good enough for 9th overall and 4th in class. Arnold Duplessis and Johan Knox in their Nissan was super quick on the 5th stage and stopped the clocks at 2 hours and 35 minutes, the 5th fastest time for the day, and that gave them 10th place and 2nd in Class D. Vos and Ter Stege were going wild in trying to secure a fast finish, but they were almost 45 minutes off the pace due to several small but vital problems in the SP class car. They would eventually finish in 23rd and last place. Ernest Corbett and Warwick Goosen in the Audi 1.9 engined Century Property Developments car were very consistent and, but for one puncture, had a picture-perfect ride all the way home. Skuman and Syme, the top car lads, landed one of the quickest times for the 5th and final stage and hauled themselves back up to the 16th place and a finish of which they were justifiably proud. For Berthold and Rousseau, their tyre troubles just continued. But with the finish line in sight, they just decided to plug on and have a go. Left front rear flat as anything, but still they kept going. The Bosel Landy of Moffat and Moffat gave a good reckoning of itself, and this pairing took the lucky 13th place, 2nd in Class E, ahead of some rather big names. The De Bruins had all their days as they'd lost four-wheel drive, but brought home their Toyota in 18 hours and 46 minutes for the 17th position. And the local population loved them. While the canary yellow Savannah Ford of the Van Reenens, Dirk Senior and Junior took 15th overall and 3rd in Class E. The gold livery of the Raysonic Nissan of Labuschagne and Gerber, they had electrical problems again, then a misfire, and finally an engine knock, but still took 4th in the D class and pulled the 14th place. But when all was said and done, the day, in fact, all 3 days belonged to Alfie Cox and Ralph Pitchford. They were in a class of their own, and with controlled racing and conservation of the Nissan, they got the job done. After 15 hours and 15 minutes, Cox had won his second 1000k event of the season. Second went to Gibson and Trethui in the Gibson Plant Hire Bat. They were almost 20 minutes behind Cox. But to the victor the spoils, and the Nissan driver and his nav weren't just a little happy about their big win. It also meant that the duo went to the top of Class F, ahead of teammate Krobler.
Yeah, I just think it's been today was the longest day of the whole lot, even though it was a short day, because, we've covered a distance of 1,000 kilometers, and that in alone is about 3 events. So today with 450 was the last leg, and leading from day one, it's been a nail-biting, and we're looking for the championship at the moment. So we've been trying to conserve the car, plus not get too far behind. And but today we held our own, and Ralph did a fantastic job. It's been a bit of a hard time for all the navigators. We've heard along the way that the marking hasn't been great and the book hasn't been 100%, so they have failed a few times, but that's not so easy for them. And but today 100% the whole way, and it was fantastic. Well done to Ralph.
You dropped back into second spot for a while there. Tell us what happened. Basically, we lost reverse gear as soon as we left the DSP today, and we overshot the corner, and I had to jump out and push the car back, but it was too heavy, so Alfie helped me. We got going again, and then we overshot another turn, and we had to go quite a few k's up the route along this corridor before we could turn around and get back.
This morning, obviously, we had it on. We really got going the first 204 k's. Then we realized we had quite a nice gap. I think we had about 19 minutes on Gary. Gary had quite a bad day today. He had 2 punches and power steering problems. So on the second lap, we managed to take it easy. But the track was fantastic. The car, unbelievable. And the preparation, 10 out of 10.
Schroeder, with bonnet askew, brought it home in 4th, limping ever so slightly due to a broken shock tower. Still, he could hardly wipe the smile off his face. The Motorrad boys were ready to welcome their team home. Hutchison and Horn had taken 7th overall and won Class B, which meant that the championship was theirs. And do you think he was happy?
Yes.
We figure.
It was a long day. This morning we started behind Paolo, and then chasing him after 17 k's he rolled, and then we had a puncture, and then Gavin got past us. He had to beat us by 4 minutes for him to win the class, so we were sitting about 2 minutes behind him, and then I think he went off and hit some rocks and broke something on the front, so he was out. Yeah, then he just took it easy, but 15 k's from the end we broke a front shock tower, and yeah, we just had to nurse it home for the last 15 k's.
Today we've managed to come first in Class B, which has given us the Class B championship for the year. We've also come third special vehicle, fifth car overall, which is quite a good result for a little Class B car in such a mammoth event. So we're very, very happy for us, and even more so for our sponsors, Motorrad. They believed me at the beginning of the year when I said we can win it, and now we finally have done it. So really are chuffed.
The results of the Toyota Dealer 1000 and a big win for Cox, strengthening his national title hopes. Gibson won Class A, while Zamatin clinched the 2nd place in Class D, making it a 2-horse race for the title at Carnival City in November. Until next Sunday, when we bring you the complete highlights, thanks for watching.